Will Arman Tsarukyan get one step closer to a lightweight title shot by taking out Charles Oliveira? See who fighters are picking in the latest edition of MMA Pros Pick.
Ooh, that's a real deal toss up for me. I think on the feet, I think if Arman comes out and tries to prove himself on the feet, I think Charles will probably snipe him. I think Charles beats him up on the feet. But Arman has that wrestling, and he has a high output. A lot of people don't really talk about that. I don't think about the pace that Arman fights at. Arman fights at a high pace, and I think the key for him would be not to try to stay technical, mix it up between the striking and the grappling, and keep that pace on Charles to kind of wear him out.
Charles Oliveira. We will see if he's still hungry enough to fight these young hungry men.
Ooh, that's a tough one. Let's go with Tsarukyan. I could see him winning.
Oliveira. He's been on the resurgence. I'm an Oliveira guy.
I hate to say it, but I'm picking Arman. I hate to pick against Charles, but I think Arman's going to be the next lightweight champ, to be honest.
Man, is that a 3-round or a 5-round? I don't know. It's hard to go against Arman for that fight, you know? I like Oliveira's too. Like, I love his submission game. But I think Arman's going to come out hungrier. He's going to have his foot on the gas.
Yeah, I'm hearing these seagulls, man. They're into the fight too.
Just enjoying some nature. They're out here talking. They want to be in the interview too. But yeah, I think Arman's gonna have his foot on the gas. I think he's gonna push the pace, and if it was a 5-round fight, I'd probably favor Oliveira a little bit more. But I don't see Arman losing that fight right now.
I'm giving the edge to Arman, man. I think the wrestling, it's going to be really, really well. And I know Oliveira's got the subs, but I think Arman has got the conditioning. He's got just enough power to really hammer things away. But Oliveira has that surprise factor. But sometimes when he always pulls it off. Even if you think he might lose, he ends up pulling it off. But I would put the favor on Arman.
Man, I remember watching Tsarukyan's debut against Islam Makhachev, and it was a super competitive fight. And I remember watching that fight, and he had a great performance, and he still lost. And I was like, man, MMA is a rough sport because you can perform like an animal and still lose. And then sure enough, it was against Islam. But I like Tsarukyan a lot. But man, Charles Oliveira is like a fighter's fighter. He's always going for finishes. He's got the most finishes, I think, in lightweight. I'd like to see Charlie Oliveira get his hand raised and then fight for the belt once more.
Do you think he does it though? Do you think he gets it done?
Yeah, he could, man. I think he can finish anybody. I'll tell you that Tsarukyan, he's young and he's in crazy shape and he can grapple and he can strike. He just finished Dariush, which was surprising. I don't know. That's just a good fight for the fans. Honestly, a lot of the 300 fights, to me, it's like the Holloway and Gaethje fight. It's sad someone has to lose, but I'm going to be rooting for both guys in that one.
Yeah, I'm going with Charles Oliveira. Like I said, I think the veterans have the slight edge just from their experience, the experience of being in those big fights, and things. All those things can carry you through, a talented up-and-comer, just as we seen with Dustin Poirier in that fight last weekend. I think that experience carries you a long way, and I think Oliveira will pull it off.
Man, I got the Bronx, man. Us blonde boys got to stick together, you know what I'm saying? But it's just on top of that, once again, I do think X's and O's wise, I think Charles is just a little too much right now. Just looking at everything all together, you know what I'm saying? Obviously, Arman's a good grappler. He's got dangerous striking, but I don't think his grappling is strong enough to, be better than Charles's grappling over the course of a full fight. And striking wise, I think Charles is just a little bit more dangerous, especially in the pocket.
That's a tough one. I think Arman.
I feel like Arman Tsarukyan's gonna take it. And I just feel like Charles doesn't have that. I think those Russian type fighters really get to his head a little bit. So I don't know. And I feel like
he's a tank, and I don't see how Charles can beat him unless he can catch a submission. But no, I see Arman winning that fight.
Man, I've counted Charles out too many times. I'm going Charles. If it's not Islam, then Charles wins. All those fights. So
I just think when someone has, like, his submission game is like Derek Lewis's knockout power. You know what I mean? At any point, he could finish the fight. So I'm gonna go with Charlie O.
Oh, that was a good one, man. I find myself watching Tsarukyan against Gamrot. Yeah, Gamrot. Man, I find myself watching that fight. Like, it's funny that I don't remember the names, but man, that fight, the scrambles, the output that they were having was amazing. I think if Tsarukyan is able to keep that pace constantly, is going to be a trouble for Charles.
That's a tricky one because especially Charles, like, that's how he got his title, right? Is everyone's like, oh, he's gonna, well, a little bit different, but they're like, he's gonna quit or get out wrestled or whatever, and then he just comes out and starts putting hands on people. But Arman, I think, is hungry for the belt. I think if anybody can get him to the floor and kind of avoid the jiu-jitsu, it's him. And he had a really close fight, if I'm remembering correctly, against Islam Makhachev. So I'll go with Arman on that one.
Oh, that's an interesting one also. I'm going to say Charles Oliveira.
I got my boy Arman all day. He actually invited me to come train with him. I'm hoping after I win this fight, I'm hoping I can get a bonus and go out and train with him a little bit. He's another Armenian, someone that I've always kind of looked up to in MMA, and I love seeing him carry that country flag and getting wins.
Ooh, that's a tough one because I was on the same card with the second guy you just said. I'm not gonna lie to you. I can't say.
No worries.
Yes,
Stick
sir.
with Arman. It's easier. Yeah.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I was on the same card with him, and he looked phenomenal when he knocked out, what was it, Dariush?
Dariush, yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. So, and Charles Oliveira's always one of my favorites. So it's a tough fight. I'm gonna have to give it to Charles, man, because I love Charles Oliveira's jiu-jitsu. Like, it's funny, he'll get knocked down, and he chooses to stay down there. Most fighters are gonna get up, but he's like, I'm down. I'm cool down here. Join me.
In my opinion, I really want to Charles win the fight because I love him as a fighter. He's also always the sort kind of underdog guy, but eventually he's always winning the fights. So I really hope he wins. But to be honest, if I look at stylistic, Arman is like a hell of a dude. He can wrestle as well, very, very good. He can strike as well. So it will be a tough one, and I really think that it's not in my favor of placing my bets on Charles. So it will Arman who will get the victory, in my opinion, but I don't like it. Let's say it. I would love to see Charles winning, but Arman, if he does it, he's also a good athlete. But I hope Charles wins.
I mean, it's tough, but because I think Charles is a bit of an underdog, but I love Charles, and I'm always rooting for him. So I want to give it to Charles. So the fanboy in me has Charles winning.
I think Charles Oliveira is always underrated, I think, because when he'll go on a high with a bunch of fights and everybody will be on his bandwagon, but then the first time he loses something or looks bad like he did against Makhachev, everybody jumps off. But I'm going to stay on the bandwagon. I'm going to go with Charles Oliveira.
I'll pick Charles Oliveira.
I got Oliveira.
Well, I love Charles, but I think on that one, I think Arman is going to get the win. Also, a lot of momentum, and Charles took so much damage in his last fight that I think he's got like a lot of mileage on him, and the engine is close to, being done. Maybe I don't want to, put him out, but I feel like if he keeps fighting, he could go Tony Ferguson pretty quickly.
Arman Tsarukyan. Only because Charles's chin is becoming less and less every time he gets touched. Now he folds. I don't know how much longer Charles has with this chin. His chin, he takes too much damage. You know what I'm saying? And when an Arman, when he hits you, he's a very hard striker, and he's an intense grappler. I don't see Charles submitting him.
Man, I am a huge Charles Oliveira fan. I love the way he fights. I love his beautiful jiu-jitsu. I would love to see him. I'm disappointed that we didn't see the Makhachev rematch. So I think Charles gets it done, and I think this is his ticket back to that rematch.